Coming up, Bloodyface versus Tyler.
When I saw I was playing against Tyler, I felt very sad because he typically just brings the strongest, best decks.
I am actually just the most boring Hearthstone player ever. I just bring the decks that I think are the strongest. I think everyone should be scared of me in this competition because I'm a good player and I have nothing to lose really, so.
Other players should fear me because I have nothing to lose. I'm already qualified for the World Championship, and that allows me to keep my nerves calm and just focus on the game in front of me.
Nerves will always be a thing, right? You will always get to a bigger stage. So trying to have a clear mind and focus more on the process itself, I feel like you'll be able to be a much better player. Bloodyface and I, we have the same lineup, but I have even Warlock instead of his Quest Rogue. So based on that, I should already be slightly favored.
I don't think I have a huge edge over Tyler. I think I probably have like a 45% edge over him. But at the end of the day, our archetypes are pretty similar, so it's going to come down to play skill.
All 16 players know how to play Hearthstone, but I wonder, out of these 16 players, who will be able to play at the best ability under pressure.
I think I'm already a very confident player. I don't think I'm like super arrogant or anything, but I definitely believe in my abilities.
I'm really not scared of anything. I think if there's going to be zero pressure on me, I'm not going to be nervous, and I'll be able to play at my best ability.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the HCT Winter Championship. My name is TJ, and I'm joined by the Admiral. That's Admirable. Back on the desk together. How you feeling, bud?
Dang, TJ. We're back at it again. Casting Hearthstone games.
That's right, that's admirable.
I'm doing great.
Yeah, and the match we have coming up for you next, as previewed by that little media piece we just showed you, is going to be Bloodyface versus Tyler. And both these players have made quite a storm of Hearthstone success in 2018/2019. Bloodyface coming off of a runner-up performance, losing to Language Hacker in just our last championship event. And also, because of his performance in that event, a lot of players, even here at this tournament, have said that Bloodyface is one of the scariest opponents in Hearthstone right now.
It certainly is. I think that Bloodyface's technical play at the last event that we saw him at was impeccable, and I made a point to talk about it quite a bit. But when it came to this tournament and we asked the players in interviews who they thought the strongest player in this tournament was, there were a number of players who iterated that they thought not only was he the strongest player in the tournament, but perhaps the strongest in the world at this point. You know, that title really went to, amongst the players that we interviewed anyway, to Bunny Hopper, to Zhao Ti, who's qualified through China during the points race, and Bloodyface. And it was surprising to me that it was so distinct across the players that they had three particular names in mind and that he was one of them.
Yeah, it's a pretty big accolade for a player that kind of floated under the radar for a long time, had some big preliminary / playoff performances throughout 2016 all the way to 2018. Never made that big breakthrough, now has, and already has proved himself as one of the best in the world. But
it really blew up this year when he decided to take the step into full-time play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, we have game number 1 coming up here, and it is going to be the Hunter for Bloodyface and the Paladin for Tyler.
This matchup, the way the decks ended up panning out, certainly worked out in Tyler's favor. With Bloodyface having Quest Rogue on the other side, it's not exactly the kind of lineup that he was looking for in this tournament. He was anticipating much more control-ish style of decks that you can prey upon with Quest Rogue and the ability to just continue to compound the advantage you gain. Against Tyler, though, Tyler's really just chosen 4 pretty good decks. They all have a potential to be fairly aggressive at a certain point in the game. They all have the potential to open very strong and then have, an explosive finish. And those are the kinds of decks that I think are dangerous for Bloodyface. I think his mid-range Hunter is really suited best to take on that style, but where his Xerix Priest and his Quest Rogue are concerned, I think those are the ones that can struggle to just very strong minions consistently throughout the game.
Yeah, and one of the key choices that Bloodyface has made for this mid-range Hunter is to put 2 baited arrows in his deck over a copy of Tundra Rhino, which was an interesting choice. And because of that, we actually sat down and spoke with him about that impactful choice for this tournament specifically. So take a look.
So while Baited Arrow might not be an intuitive card to play, I think it's actually one of the best cards to play mid-range Hunter. I personally believe it's core. I wouldn't play the deck without it.
And we actually had a chance to talk with him a little bit more in depth about it, and it made a lot of sense how he explained it. He asked us when he sat down with the casters, what is the most popular 5-drop in the format right now? Neutral 5-drop, and it's Ziliax. And if you think about it in that context, Ziliax is a big tempo swing for the Hunter if you're able to play Baited Arrow. He trades over with the Ziliax, you Baited Arrow, have a 5/5 in its place, and negate half the healing, which made a lot of sense. And also he said that one of his bans is, well, not in this series, but is Priest, is pretty strong against his lineup. And he said, well, against Priest, the extra copy of Tundra Rhino that you gain is not that great against anything other than Priest where you're trying to force an early Psychic Scream. So it just, small choices like that can make a big difference in tournaments like this.
Yeah, that's largely the game outside of the game, right? You still need to have strong in-game technical play, but there's a lot going on outside of the game where the deck building is concerned. You know, in our first match, for instance, that was a match that was definitely determined by the way that players build their lineups. I think that Viper had a big edge against what Noblord had brought to the tournament, and it played out that exact same way.
Yeah. Mid-range Hunter, the most popular deck choice for the tournament. No surprise, because it is a very powerful deck. One of the things that it was lacking was its ability to keep pressure up throughout the mid stages of the game. If they missed a key draw or a key turn, they would fall behind and lose the game inevitably.
Yeah.
But now they have Master's Call, which allows you to have that refill, allows you to keep control of the board. And of course, there's always Deathstalker Rexar, those control matchups where you need that inevitability and that resource generation. So just a few tools that it's gotten over the course of the last year has pushed it into that tier 1 spot.
I think what's really cool about Master's Call is that it really makes you take into account how you build your deck, where a lot of our prior Beast Hunter decks were often seated around Houndmaster. It was sticking a board early and then getting the payoff from that card. And when you have Houndmaster in your deck, Master's Call is, you know, significantly weaker sometimes, where you're going to have a Houndmaster in that pool, and as a result, you discover one of those minions instead of picking 3 of them up. You know, that taking into account puts you in a different position where you have a 3-mana draw 3 beasts from your deck effect, and you have to take a look at then, well, now how do I get my late game advantage? And it lets you build the deck in a more flexible way, where we're starting to see Dire Frenzies included into the deck so that you can shuffle a big minion in and draw it later with Master's Call. We're seeing the Deathstalker Rexar play a super impactful role because Master's Call helps you reach that option sooner by pulling 3 beasts out of your deck. Speak of the devil. And I think it's just one of those cards that it's going to stick around for a while, and this is like the new face of Hunter you're looking at, is decks built around Master's Call. 3-mana draw 3, that's just a good card.
Really good. And draw 3 cards that you basically curated when you created your deck.
Yep.
With that limitation of having to be beast. But take a look at this matchup. We also have to talk about the evolution of Even Paladin in the metagame, where with the change to equality, and of course just a change to the meta in general, this deck has changed kind of its identity. It used to be lumped in with aggressive decks, and it still is sometimes. But I think the big change is that it's gotten a lot more mid-range. It's gotten a lot heavier. We're seeing Nerubian Unravelers, Mojo Master Zihi, a lot more top end with the deck, and equality sometimes cut all together. So it kind of just plays that board control game, and if I stick a big threat, I can suit it up and hit my opponent in the face, and it reminds me of, you know, mid-range decks of old.
Yeah, and that to me is really playing on the same effect too. You know, the difference is now the mid-range effects that we currently have are much more powerful than they used to be. You know, specifically for me, I'm looking at Spike Ridge Steed, Sunkeeper Taram, and then the Lich King.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite rare, I think, that you could create an 8-mana minion that outdoes Ragnaros, but I think Lich King comes pretty close.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Also has benefit against a wide board, which Ragnaros didn't always do unless you were able to snipe face with your opponent at 8 health and a bunch of 1/1s on board. But getting into this game, kind of just a battle for board, which is what this comes down to. Whichever player takes control of the board will end up winning the game.
I was like, I know he's going to finish this thought. I just don't know exactly how yet.
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, will finish the game unless they draw their board clear. But Tyler doesn't have qualities, as I had mentioned for my previous point, which is a big thing because if he falls behind, very tough for him to get back in the game.
Right. To me, that's really the direction that even Paladin ended up taking when it lost equality at the 2-mana slot, was that you don't have this come from behind effect anymore, so you have to get more aggressive early on. And if you're going to get that aggressive early on, you're going to have to be able to back it up, which spells early stuff, middle stuff, and then late stuff. You don't have any fancy tricks in the deck. It's pretty straightforward. So that is a scary aspect in that, you know, if things get out of control, they're out of control. But it's a lot of times it's just more powerful feeling where your hand doesn't get bogged down with qualities in a spot where you don't need them because you're ahead, and then you end up getting behind because you don't have the right card.
Yeah. Well, here's that baited arrow that we talked about. We saw bloodyface talk about as well.
It's a really interesting turn here for bloodyface where you don't typically see this many options available for a hunter deck, where, you know, he could get the Rexar hero power online, but that costs him a lot of tempo. He could end up using baited arrow here, and I imagine Timberwolf would come down alongside that. To me, the tempo play is going to be the strongest play here.
Yeah, we talked about how impactful controlling the board is in this matchup. If you effectively give Tyler a full turn of development without your own development before that, it's going to be really tough for you to make a comeback unless Deathstalker Rexar gives you some fantastic options.
Yeah. Which
is hard because he only have 7 mana to work with, 5 mana for an impactful zombies, and he'd be playing off curve.
Yeah, the only real thing I would look to consider here is that bloodyface could have used the hatchet that he still has with the Scavenging Hyena to take out the Spellbreaker on the other side, the 4/3, and then just drop Savannah Highmane. Yeah. Savannah Highmane in this spot would have left him with a 1/2 and then a 6/5 alongside of it. So his board currently looks a little bit stronger.
It looks a little bit stronger now, but he needs a full turn to set up the Savannah Highmane, whereas baited arrow could protect the Savannah Highmane.
Where did the hatchet just go? Next to the hero. He didn't swing with it, did he? Am I crazy? That just did. He had a 2/1 weapon.
So he baited arrow the 1/1.
Yeah. He
And
used a
then
3/1 to trade into the
over
4/3.
the 4/3. And
Where's the hatchet?
He pushed 2 with the Dire Mole.
Did he push 2 with the Dire Mole? He did push 2 with the Dire Mole. So he used the hatchet to swing at the 1/1. There we go.
He baited arrow the 1/1.
We baited arrow the 1/1. You're right. What happened to it?
It's there. He has 2 attack.
What? All right. Well,
what in the world?
Yeah. Well,
there.
What? What the heck is going on? I am freaking out. All right. Well, now that I'm past that point, long story short, bloodyface took tempo. That's where Paladin struggles because it doesn't come from behind much anymore.
Still has a hatchet charge in the tank. There we go.
But you can see the difference in like the Savannah Highmane and the baited arrow. Bloodyface might have not gotten the opportunity with baited arrow to actually make the 5/5, and I think that's why he ended up going with that play. Is Savannah Highmane is much less situational than the baited arrow is. You know, the situation that pans out for bloodyface is he gets to get even more ahead when he baited arrows this turn because he'd be dropping a crackling razor maul over it with this instead of the Savannah Highmane by itself. But long story short, I think that those are non-factors, and bloodyface is just at a massive advantage.
Yep. Tough situation here, though. Doesn't know what that secret is, and the big things on his mind are Noble Sack and the Auto Defense Matrix.
Yeah.
Auto Defense Matrix is pretty big in this scenario because he has to break the Divine Shield, and by doing so, also wants to make sure that he's checking for Noble Sacrifice. And if it's Auto Defense Matrix, then he has to put a big attack after he checks for Noble Sacrifice into probably the Divine Shielded Corpse Taker.
Yeah,
which is also
so
brutal.
smart here. Bloodyface with the extra life to expend, he's willing to take the risk on just taking 7 damage and it being Auto Defense Matrix and getting a payoff as a result. That risk ends up panning out even better for him because it's a Noble Sacrifice instead.
Yeah.
So at this stage, I'm going to say that Tyler is pretty much shut out of the game, and I just don't think he's capable of getting back into it at this point.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where Deathstalker Rexar is also tempo because it allowed him to get rid of the possibility of having to check for both Noble Sacrifice and All Defense Matrix, and narrowing it down to checking for both at the same time with the Hatchet Swing. Now, you said out of the game, but Tyrion is... he's a big boy.
It's quite large, and I don't think that you know, bloodyface is necessarily excited about seeing Tyrion here. But that was an Iron Beak Owl, yeah. Okay, well now he's pretty excited about seeing Tyrion here.
Yeah.
You know, this would have ended up in bloodyface having a tempo loss, but the difference is that he has Deathstalker Rexar online now, so he's just going to be building beasts while Tyler's just operating on the natural card.
Yeah.
So, you know, you look at Tyler's deck list, and the Lich King is still there, Sunkeeper Tarim's still there, there's still both Spike Ridge Steeds, some pretty big stuff to pick up, but you also look and there's Consecrations, and there's a Crystal Smith Kangor, and there's 2 copies of Acidic Swamp Ooze. Like, there's a lot of nonsense that's in the deck as well. The average draw is just so much better for bloodyface at this point.
Yeah. The average draw plus the average pickup from the zombies. So.
Yeah. And also, just, you know, the average 7/9 that's hit you in the face twice now.
Yep.
It's the law of high main.
And bloodyface has Unleash the Hounds plus Scavenging Hyena in the hand.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious what bloodyface is actually thinking about in this scenario. It could just be that he's so far ahead that he's like, I don't really know what's going to get there. Spike Ridge Steed's kind of, you know, not fun for me. I'll just take care of it and handle, you know, a Spike Ridge Steed mini that's smaller in a very easy way. You know, I think that bloodyface, either way he plays this game, he's going to end up with a big advantage.
Yeah. He knows that he can play this trading game because he has the resource advantage in the long term.
Yeah. It's funny how this ends up lining up just perfectly for what the play actually was. And that's exactly what bloodyface was thinking. Once that happens, the Valenier plus the Savannah High Main onto the Valenier Wind Fury Harp, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And Lethal will do it too.
Yeah, and that is going to do it. He had a couple outs there with the Inno Companions for Lethal, plus a zombie. So whichever way you slice it, bloodyface takes a convincing game #1 victory in this series over Tyler.
Yeah, just that's Mid-Range Hunter in a nutshell. If you cannot check it and put it on the back foot, it's going to be able to do whatever it wants to do.
Yep.
And that is the reason so many players have brought it. It is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, reason why a lot of players are banning it as well in this case, which is exactly what bloodyface did against Tyler because he didn't want to play against that mid-range hunter. But that's bloodyface taking that first game. That one's in the books. We're going to see if Tyler can make a comeback here. We're going to have to go to a break. When we come back, more HCT Winter Championship.
HCT Winter Championship. And we're on the rumble run to the finish line. From China to North America, from South Korea to Germany. 16 players from 4 regions all over the world have emerged with hopes of seizing the throne and taking the Winter Championship crown. In the end, only 4 will advance to the World Championship and their chance at Hearthstone history. Which player will be the last left standing? Nudge yourself closer to the fire, my friends. The HCT Winter Championship rolls on.
With the developers.
My battle cry upon coming into the room, it's hard to say what its effect would be in-game, but I'm sure it would probably ensue in some kind of 80s musical stinger.
I think it'd just be like an exasperated sigh.
Honestly, it'd probably be a laugh because I just laugh all the time in any situation, and sometimes inappropriately.
I'm very tired in the mornings, and I always have meetings in the mornings, so I just kind of like sit down like...
I'm pretty sure I would not have a battle cry, and I would have stealth, because that is what I do all day on accident, is accidentally startle people that I just wanted to talk to.
Oh man, if I had my own battle cry, it would probably bring joy and a smile, put a smile on everyone's face.
You just open the door and like dun 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 dun, trumpets are thundering. It's like, who's? Oh, it's Josh again. Oh.
If I were going to try and not startle people, then my battle cry would probably be, "Hey, can I talk to you real quick?"
I don't know if I'd have a voiceover. It'd be more of an aura where like you just enter the room and everyone just starts like laughing.
If I had a battle cry whenever I walked into the room, it would be to transform the color of a random person in the room's hair. Just like that.
Give that minion a turn to get ready.
Oh, where's your huffer? I'll take you on! Dragon Hawks forever! And what do you want? You want some of this too?
Let me change your mind.
Woohoo! Zombies! Go, one zombie! Get these stupid dragon hawks off my field! Get them the heck out of here! And the lynxes are still back!
Greetings.
Boo, lynxes!
Greetings. 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 Greetings.
Welcome back, everybody, to the HCT Winter Championship. This is the third match of day number 1 competition, one of the initial matches for Group B. bloodyface currently leads 1-0 over Tyler. I'm TJ, joined by That's Admirable. And one of the things that we didn't talk about in the previous game is that both of these players are already qualified for the 2019 Hearthstone World Championship. 2 of the 4 players that are already qualified at this event, Viper and Bunny Hopper being the other 2.
Yeah, and you know, if we talked about everything there was to talk about between this particular match in that first game, we wouldn't have talked about the game at all.
We wouldn't have talked about the game at all.
Yeah, and there's different implications for it where the tiebreakers could end up panning out if qualified players already make it to top 4. With bloodyface, Viper, and Bunny Hopper, if they make it to the top 4, that World Championship seed goes down to someone else. If Tyler makes it to the top 4, however, it takes precedent over his points-earning World Championship victory, which means that the points in Asia Pacific then go to the second place earner in points in that region instead. So a lot of people cheering for bloodyface in this one who are in the tournament, and a lot of people who aren't in the tournament cheering for Tyler in this one, in hopes that maybe Rivius can sneak a spot in that World Championship as well. It's pretty crazy to think about just how many returning championship competitors there are and the implications they have on them winning.
Yeah, we talked about it in the pre-show a little bit, but a lot of the Korean fans are rooting for definition, of course, because he's a Korean player, and we've never had a World Championship without a Korean player. But they're also rooting for Tyler, because Tyler making it to the top 4 also means that Rivius gets a spot in the World Championship, which is another route for Korea to have a representative. And I even got word that Rivius actually set up a kind of event for watching the championship, a viewing party to cheer on Tyler. And he's even offering packs out of his own pocket for some of the Korean community that have the best cheer. So
that's awesome.
Pretty cool stuff. He's got a lot riding on this event as well, even though he's not here in person to try and get that qualification for himself. So pretty big deal. bloodyface also, he mentioned to us beforehand that he still feels like he has a lot to prove. There's been in the past a lot of players who, after qualifying for the World Championship, kind of took it easy to prep for it. But bloodyface said he wants to just continue proving that he's one of the best players in the world, because this is his full-time thing now. He quit his job to pursue Hearthstone, and nice little chunk of that 250 grand is a pretty good bonus. But also solidifying himself in the Hearthstone history books has to be at the forefront of his mind, competing in a second championship in a row.
Shout out to Rivius in chat right now, by the way. And into the matchup, I like the way that Tyler played this on turn 2, where instead of going for life tap as is the traditional even Warlock play of tap, 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 and then play a big threat, he just wants to get the threats going right away. And in this matchup, it's important to be pressuring bloodyface's life total. There's 2 big reasons why. Number 1, bloodyface is playing the Xeric Cloning Gallery Priest, so he has combo turns that are on the horizon that can eliminate Tyler at a lot of different moments in the game. But number 2 is that Tyler has 2 big cards that help punish the way that Priest is going to handle board states. He's got Mojo Master Zihi, which is already in hand, sets each player's mana crystal to 5 on its battle cry, and he's also got a copy of Nerubian Unraveler, a 6-mana 5/5 that makes all spells cost 2 more. In both of those situations, if he has pressure on bloodyface, those 2 cards have potential to end the game outright.
Absolutely. And bloodyface is playing the very combo-oriented version of the Xeric Cloning Gallery Priest. There's a few different versions. You see kind of the anti-aggro version, which runs double Witchwood Grizzly. But bloodyface is running the version with 2 Shadow Essence to try and accelerate the pace at which he could complete the combo. and you know, offer. It can get Ziliax, which can res to heal. It can get Gilded Gargoyle, which can get you a coin, and also just put a 5/5 body on board.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is just to put more stuff in the Resurrect pool earlier on in the game that's going to help you complete that combo later on.
Yeah, the coin doesn't seem too exciting as he gets a great pan out here from
Mass Hysteria.
Yeah, from Mass Hysteria. And one of the you know, the big things to really look at is the fact that the coin just unleashes so much potential in the Xeric Cloning Gallery Priest, where you just have so much extra mana with Mind Blast turns after using a Spellstone or just playing a Velen on its own or what have you. Earlier access to Psychic Scream and to Lich King, if that's what it's going to boil down to. But to me, one of the interesting things about this deck is that players have debated largely which is the right direction to go. Do you want to even play Gilded Gargoyle in your deck to start with? You know, the fact that we're so far into this deck existing and there's not a unanimous answer across the board is very interesting to me.
Yeah, especially the Witchwork Grizzlies, because we've seen people say that, oh, I hate the Shadow Essence. You play Witchwork Grizzly, you don't play the deck, right? or some people are saying, you know what? This metagame does not suit anti-aggro cards, which overall is a solid read, and I want to complete my combo a little bit quicker and have more blow-up potential with Shadow Essence. I don't need the defense, and they play this version that bloodyface is playing, so pretty cool.
My initial instinct was to say exactly what you said people were saying, but then you just kept saying so much that I was like, I'm not going to remember that.
Prophet Velen's on the board.
Yeah, this is definitely
solid transition.
It's kind of like, this is a weird kind of deck as well when it comes to your minions and how you actually play them. Like, so many times in the deck, you play your Prophet Velen, and if your opponent attacks it, you're like, sweet!
And if your opponent doesn't attack it, you're like, sweet! Sweet!
That to me is one of the reasons why this is such a powerful deck, is all of its minions are scary, regardless of whether or not they're even alive at that point.
Yeah, it's a catch-22, healing or damage.
I don't know what catch-22 really means, or like its origin. Why is it catch-22? Why isn't it catch-23?
I don't know.
Maybe it was the 20-second catch that somebody, you know, figured out about a situation, and that was the one that stuck.
That's a great question.
Kind of feel bad for catch-18. No one even remembers that one.
I mean, catch-23 was just waiting in line for his turn.
Second Mountain Giant is problem for bloodyface.
Well, the term catch-22 actually gained currency as the title of a 1961 war novel by Joseph Heller, who referred to an Air Force pilot rule whereby a pilot continuing to fly combat missions without asking for relief is regarded as insane, but is considered sane enough to continue flying if he does make such a request. A catch-22.
Yeah, 22 was mentioned a lot of times in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 20-second catch.
Great read. Highly recommended.
Spirit Lash, then Resurrect.
Not all wonders are lost.
Lines up against the Mountain Giant quite well and also protects bloodyface from a single buffed Spellstone from killing off the Prophet Velen. Very solid sequencing. However, Holy Smite would have prevented the Spellstone plus the 2/3 trading, but I think with 2 Lesser Diamond Spellstones and Lich King in hand, bloodyface just isn't really worried about that.
Yeah,
Tyler's spending 4 mana and not getting a Lich King down.
I don't think he's ever really expecting Prophet Velen to live, and even if it does live, I don't think he's expecting that to be his main win condition. So I like his option here of holding on to the Holy Smites for that kill you blow.
Yeah, a little curious if Tyler should be getting the Hooked Reavers going here, just for the, you know, the thought of Blood Reaver Gul'dan in the Resurrection pool, but you just may not have a thought of really getting Blood Reaver Gul'dan down anytime soon. Maybe a long time before he does that. But the game plan for Tyler is still pretty straightforward. Play things, try to get to a scary board position, and then punish with Mojo Master ZD.
Yep. Arming the Dead, interesting.
Pretty risky card.
Yeah, can sometimes be used as a bootleg Xerix.
That is last week's Otto.
That's not nearly as good as the actual Xerix, but it's cheaper.
And this is really the turn to do it. It was just you got to trade over a Lich King and then develop you know, 9 extra attack alongside of it. This is a massive turn for I'm sorry, you get 7 extra attack alongside of it. It's just a big turn where bloodyface now, if he wants to get, you know, Spellstone going, you know, Xeric's cloning gallery into big combo damage, we're 3 turns off again.
Yeah. He can still Eternal Servitude back a Lich King if that's what he so chooses. Could also Eternal Servitude back a Velen and maybe clear off a few minions from the board, the Plated Beetle and the Shroom Brewer if he's really worried. But the thing to note about Mojo Master Zehi is that it sets both players' mana crystals to 5, so Tyler also has less follow-up.
Yeah, it does technically yield a little bit of initiative to your opponent, which is why I really actually like this card, is that it requires you to set it up to be good. It's not like, you know, Lothep of the Days of Yore, where you're like, 5 mana, 5/5, shut off your spells for a turn. Sweet.
No downside.
Yeah, the downside is, you know, your opponent may kill you next turn with the minions they have in play.
Yeah.
But Mojo Master Zehi threatens that you lose tempo in the game and just never sees it back.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think Lich King is quite clearly the superior pick of the two at this moment.
The interesting thing to me is the Radiant Elemental.
Yeah, he wants it in the Resurrection Pool.
I suppose...
One of the Diamond Spellstones just got buffed.
Okay, yeah, that's true, because previously he only had Lich King and Velen, as we just saw with the Eternal Servitude, so he wants to get full value to that. No, that makes sense.
It also just threatens to, you know, actually have an impact on the game, where Tyler is very, you know, concerned about killing off the Radiant Elemental to some degree, and so he's has to think about, you know, where the damage is concerned. And for bloodyface right now, I think alleviating damage is quite a priority.
Tyler has access to Spellbreaker here. He could push to 11 damage. Would not set him up for lethal if his board gets cleared in some way, because he would only have access to 7 mana next turn, which would just be enough for 1 Hellfire.
It's also scary when your opponent has the Radiant Elemental plus a Velen in the pool. You know, you're looking at Mind Blast, Holy Smite being lethal with a Spellstone.
Yeah,
at that
that's
point.
true.
There's just a lot of things going on, but you know, if it's a buffed Spellstone, that's going to be lethal anyway. You know, Tyler's in this battle where I think he needs to figure out a way to take a risk and try to kill bloodyface.
Oh, this is the risk. He said, well, we're going into turn 7. You don't have access to Xerix, but you do have access to Spellstone. I'm just going to hope they don't have that crazy package of spells. It would have to be... So he's got 10 damage on board, so he would need 13. So it would be like 1 Mind Blast, 1 Holy Smite with the Velen in the pool would be lethal.
The other thing, too, is that bloodyface does have Lich King down under the Spellstone as well. And what that means is, you know, the Spellstone's going to resurrect Lich King, Radiant Elemental, and Prophet Velen in that instance. But you're at 4.
Yeah.
Bloodyface had 18 damage this turn if he had just ripped the Spellstone instead.
Yeah, if Tyler has any points of damage in hand with Hellfire, then he's dead if he just plays Spellstone, unless he uses these Holy Smites to try and clear off some of the board. He could Spellstone, Holy Smite the Spellbreaker, Holy Smite the Shroom Brewer, and trade over the 5/5. Then he's alive. And maybe that board is big enough for him to just win the game anyway. So this is the time that I like pulling the trigger on the Holy Smites. 1, it's the only thing that keeps you alive through Hellfire. And 2, and 2 8/8s and a 7/7 on board.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, you know, potentially delivering lethal damage yourself next turn. This is the massive swing the deck tries to get to. Yeah. And a lot of times when you can disrupt your opponent from combo, that's a good thing for Tyler, but not when you're losing board this much.
And this also kind of brings me back to bloodyface's choice on the Shadow Visions. He picked Shadow or Death, but I don't think he evaluated his full turn before he went for that Shadow Visions play. Otherwise, I think you snap pick Mind Blast in that situation, because if your opponent plays a 5 attacker or more minion, what could it be that would stop you from killing your opponent if you had picked Mind Blast instead? I don't think there's anything. Lich King can't come down. Hooked Reaver's not activated.
I wonder.
I think Tyler just got beat.
Yeah.
You know, I think bloodyface is looking at it and going, you know what? If I get to another turn, I'm probably pretty good to go anyway.
Yeah.
And so to me, this was like, you know, account for some sort of weird Spellstone Defile play. I don't think there was a way for him to account for all the Shadow Visions scenarios in that one. Tyler forced to life tap with Rope burning down. There's just no option that gets this job done.
All right, so he's going to go up to 25.
Yikes.
15. He would
Tyler's
have had
gonna,
lethal if he picked the Mind Blast.
Tyler's very thoroughly dead.
Yeah.
There's not a card in the deck that comes back from this scenario. You know, even Warlock, in the same way that the Paladin deck was playing earlier, once it loses board outside of Defile and Hellfire, there's no way you're coming back.
Yeah.
And Bloodyface he was able to get to big minions safely.
Wait. He needs to heal up. That's the big thing here because of double Hellfire. That's the only thing he loses to is double Hellfire.
And so the Spellstone Burst gives him access to the double-double. And so it goes to 8 healing off the hero power. And that's enough.
Full animal style.
Yeah. That style.
Bloodyface takes game number 2. Tyler on the back foot. And we may be on a road to starting off day 1 with 3 sweeps.
It's pretty crazy to look at, but the third deck for Tyler, for Bloodyface here, you know, as has been talked about in the other matchups, it's the one I'm concerned with. I think Quest Rogue has some pretty questionable matchups here versus what Tyler has brought. And so that's the big question mark point. Can Bloodyface pilot it to a victory versus the even Warlock, the Xeric Cloning Gallery Priest of Tyler's, and the even Paladin that we saw him on in game 1?
Yeah, they're just kind of, it's a mixture of pretty aggressive decks with a mixture of that Xeric's Cloning Gallery Priest, which is a combo deck that just gets its combo, quote unquote, from Quest Rogue off much quicker. So yeah, 3 tough matchups across the board. And we even saw what Noblord struggled with his Quest Rogue earlier on. It was a good call for the overall metagame because there's a lot of slow decks, but they're also combo decks that just get on the board faster and finish their combos faster in order to kill you. So I think it's going to be a deck that we see struggling a lot.
It definitely could be, but it's important to note that Tyler's lineup's not nearly as aggressive as Viper's is as well.
Or Bunny Hoppers, which is one of the most aggressive. So definitely some interesting things to look forward to in the rest of this series. But for now, we're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, maybe the conclusion of Bloodyface versus Tyler. Tune in right after this.
With the developers.
I know people who will only play Hearthstone on the toilet, which is interesting because when I see them come playing Hearthstone on my friends list, I know exactly what they're doing.
I don't know, that's the beauty of modern technology, man.
So if you're ever standing in line at a bathroom stall, that might actually be the reason why.
The strangest place I've played it at probably was when I was vacationing in Cabo. I was trying to hit Legend and it was at the end of the month and I was just playing in the pool. On my phone, and then like one of my friends took a video of it, of just me swimming in the pool playing Hearthstone.
There was a video that circulated on Reddit at some point where I saw a guy kind of busking, playing a piano, and in between playing certain pieces, he would take his turn.
I don't really play Hearthstone in that many unusual places, although I do have to sometimes, like, very discreetly play Hearthstone because my wife will be like sleeping next to me in the bed, and then like I'll have to like play Hearthstone while like contorting my arms so I don't disturb her. So occasionally like one of her arms will come over here and like, oh well, I gotta play Hearthstone like this now.
It was a really big win, I think, just for Hearthstone players around the world when Tyler was able to qualify in Asia Pacific. Tyler, for people who don't know, has been documenting his father's health problems on Twitter for the past 7-8 weeks or so. Tyler originally moved back to Vietnam to primarily be with family. You know, you can see how much that meant to him. He was literally on social media begging for anybody that knew anything about his father's health problems to consult him. He was looking for doctors, asking people to retweet and share so he can get his father's help. And then 2 weeks ago, you know, right before the playoffs, his father ended up passing away, unfortunately. Tyler had every excuse in the book to not show up, take some time to mourn, separate yourself from things, and get some distance and clarity. But instead, his family encouraged him, and apparently his father's dying wish was that he would continue to pursue his passions and to continue to be a champion. And look, I've said this story like 4 or 5 times now, and it still gets me emotional just thinking about it because it's a very touching story. And I think Tyler is so inspiring. Even if he doesn't become the world championship for the Year of the Raven, this guy has the heart of one. And I respect the hell out of this guy.
One of the things that stood out to me always from the first time I met Tyler was that he's just so friendly. He brings other people out of their shell too. You don't often see Soddle get very emotional. And someone like Tyler can warm Soddle's cold heart to make him come out on Twitter and show his support for him. Not even as a Hearthstone player, but just as a person. Very happy for Tyler. And I honestly hope he does well. He's already at the World Championship.
Right. He was already World Championship bound. And I think that just sets the stage for a fantastic field of 16.
Hearthstone Championship Tour continues. It's go time. This is the HCT Winter Championship.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the HCT Winter Championship. You saw during the break a little clip from Talkstone where Dan and I discussed the very unfortunate circumstances that Tyler had to go through before the playoffs, with his father passing away. Decided to make the trip to playoffs despite it, because his father had always wanted him to follow his dream of playing Hearthstone professionally and at the highest level. And you know, you have to commend Tyler for his perseverance in the face of the worst odds possible.
Yeah, I just, you know, I ain't got the words for it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
it's tough, but you know, he's persevered through it. And
Yeah.
to me, that's like really such a big statement about it. As Dan, you know, we saw Dan talking about in that piece. It takes a lot of heart to come into a tournament and do that. And I think he has done it fantastically. And I think that the way that he has spoken about it and the way that he's using it as a point of encouragement for others as well has just been so touching. And honestly, it's inspiring to see.
And now Tyler competing in the Winter Championship, second championship appearance this year. Has had an incredible year for Hearthstone after making the move to Vietnam after, you know, competing in Europe from the Netherlands for some time, and now has become effectively one of the faces of Asia Pacific competitive Hearthstone.
Oh yeah,
and already at the World Championship because of his points leader position, as we've talked about. So kind of playing for that glory. And also playing for Rivius, as we also talked about, but you always want to see Tyler succeed. But on the other hand, bloodyface, exceptional Hearthstone player. One of the best breakout performances we've ever seen from a Hearthstone competitor. And currently he's sitting up 2-0 in the series with just Questrogue remaining.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, you know, prior to this with Questrogue being one of these slower combo decks, I guess is a good way to put it. I think it definitely can get underway and put a lot of pressure on Tyler, but you know, that is going to be somewhat dependent on draws here. And when Tyler opens up with 2 Radiant Elementals here and starts chipping away, this is a pretty big deal for bloodyface, where this was, I think, the one thing he did not want to see Tyler do was open up with Coin Radiant into Radiant.
Yeah.
Now that that's the case, bloodyface has to start playing this deck a way you do in aggressive matchups, where you have to fight for board position and then hope that you can find a way to you know, complete your quest later on. It's much more difficult in the face of pressure, and Tyler's deck isn't going to continue to compound this issue, but at some point it'll get a bit explosive, and it will always threaten to have Mind Blasts to be able to deliver damage.
Yeah, the big thing about this start is that it delays bloodyface's ability to complete the combo, because bloodyface, as you mentioned, has to worry about this. And that means that even if this board gets stopped now or in a few turns, it meant that bloodyface couldn't play the hand the way he wanted to complete his quest as quick as possible, which gives Tyler more time to get that Xerx's cloning gallery online to finish the game with those big Mind Blast bursts. And even once Rogue completes his quest, because of the change in the identity of the deck, there's less chargers. There's 1 Stone Tusk Boar alongside the 2 South Sea deckhands. So you do just have kind of less burst potential from hand, which can be a big deal as we get to those later phases of the game where you're playing against a combo deck that could kill you from 30 at any point in time.
Yeah. There are some big differences between bloodyface's version of the Cloning Gallery Priest and Tyler's as well. One of the main ones I'm looking at is that Shadow Reaper Anduin in hand for Tyler. There is no Lich King included in the list, and he's gone much more towards that combo-oriented style of victory, where he's also has a copy of Vivid Nightmare to make a duplicate of either a Malagos or a Prophet Velen, so that you once again get the double on your bonus damage. That is a very big difference in the lists, where Lich King might have outright won Bloodyface the previous game.
Yeah.
Would Shadow Reaper Anduin have come even close to doing the same thing in that matchup?
It's really hard to tell.
But in this matchup, would you rather have Lich King or would you rather have Shadow Reaper Anduin? And honestly, I think I'd rather have Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah, even though there's no 5-attack minions for you to kill at all.
Yeah.
It just allows you to have that recurring pressure to try and get those last pieces of damage in without having to rely on any sort of combo, right? You don't have to have Xerix. You can weave in those Shadow Reaper Anduin hero powers with Mind Blast and Holy Smites in order to piece together damage over a few turns.
Yeah, it's the guaranteed extended reach you get from Anduin versus the sometimes reach that you get from the Lich King.
Yep. But again, like you mentioned, Vivid Nightmare in place of kind of a Shadowward Pain, which is what Bloodyface opted to put in his deck, so a little bit more removal options. Another Shadow Vision's picked up. Well, right now,
I mean, Smite is damage.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, Xerix's Cloning Gallery right now, since he's played Double Radiant, will summon all the things he needs for combo, except for reduction on his spells.
Yeah.
Which means that he won't have the ability. He could play Xerix's Cloning Gallery on turn 10 and get 1 Holy Smite.
Yeah.
Which is still 12 damage. 14 damage.
I was like,
my bad.
Doing this right.
Yeah. 14 damage.
7 times 2, 12. TJ math.
Yeah, math was never my strong suit. That's why I decided to become a caster.
Well,
where
I was
math
thinking
is a critical part of my job.
So you went on to the combo turns. I was just thinking about the Smite to do this, where Tyler just, again, he wants to keep chipping away.
Okay.
But we see the Ziliax in Bloodyface's hand, which is, I think partially the reason that you ended up dismissing that as a thought. But, that play right there, it just shows you how aggressive Tyler wants to be in this matchup. He knows that he's under the gun where the damage is concerned, and Ziliax, probably one of the last things he wanted to see this turn. And the second Elven Minstrel, probably going to be the other thing that he doesn't want to see on next turn. So I think Bloodyface, even though his hand is, like one of the starter decks that you get when you first start playing Hearthstone, I think that's going to quickly compound as this, Tyler's going to have a few turns of doing nothing here.
I hope you like my invention.
Which is just the risk that you have to take. But like I said earlier, it was about Tyler delaying how Bloodyface could play his hand, delaying the completion of the quest. And now that Bloodyface sees a dead turn, now he can start drawing some cards, looking at his hand and saying, now how can I complete the quest as efficiently as possible? And then how can I win the game from there? This is just a whole lot of nothing.
Right. I mean, this is a lot of what the Cloning Gallery Priest deck will sometimes do as well. I don't think Tyler's necessarily just like in an outright losing position in this spot. There's a lot of things that can change and a lot of things that can happen. And it's a deck that really lives and dies with a lot of turns like this. It's one of the reasons why I'm so uncomfortable playing the deck, is I'm so used to playing things when I play Hearthstone. Like, if I'm not using my cards, I feel like I'm losing. Right now, I don't necessarily feel like Tyler's losing until that Vanish gets drawn. Now I feel like Tyler's losing.
Yeah. The big thing about it is, if he just did nothing for 9 turns and didn't draw any of his minions, he would just win. That's just how Xerix's Cloning Gallery Priest works.
But the Radiants have already been drawn.
But the Radiants have already been drawn, so now the combo is offline for Tyler on turn 9. So what he has to do is survive long enough to pick up Spellstone and then hope that he reses the good stuff, because he's not going to win a War of Attrition, because Quest Rogue is the absolute best at winning a War of Attrition because of the fact that they have Lab Recruiter. They have a source of infinite resources. Now he just did use his Lab Recruiter.
Yes, and he uses the Novice Engineer because I think Bloodyface is understanding that he doesn't need to go infinite resources with this deck. One of the main points of defense for Tyler in terms of wide board states is going to be Psychic Scream. That's going to add cards to your deck. So when Psychic Scream is adding cards to your deck, what ends up happening is you naturally win the Fatigue War against your opponent. That's really the only downside of Psychic Scream that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way this matchup is going to that Fatigue state, which, if it did, he would hold on to Lab Recruiter for Valera, and Lab Recruiter his own Lab Recruiter to have that infinite chain of resources.
A lot of long-term shenanigans.
A lot of long-term shenanigans. Only really relevant in like odd warrior matchups, potentially.
Yeah. Well, it's relevant in some of the mirror matchups as well.
Yeah, mirror matchups as well. When if you both are just fighting evenly, complete the quest around the same time.
I remember
pulls far ahead.
When Lab Recruiter first got introduced into this deck as a way to do that, continue to shuffle minions back in your deck. There was a brilliant quote from Naviut that I heard, which he said, "Look, playing Lab Recruiter might be an idiotic move, but if it's going to go in Quest Rogue and there's going to be idiots playing Lab Recruiter, you now have to play Lab Recruiter because those idiots are going to beat you if you don't." I was like, "Wow, that's really smart."
So when everybody's an idiot, nobody's an idiot.
Correct. Then it's just right. That's why TJ and I are both idiots.
Because then neither of us are idiots.
Makes sense if you don't think about it.
Well, Bloodyface looked like he wanted to complete the quest with Glacial Shard. He bounced that back out of the minions that he had available to him on board.
Yep.
Put on a lot of pressure. He played a lot of minions last turn, trying to force out the removal from Tyler. But now kind of back to the drawing board. Still a ways away from the quest, and then still a ways away from killing Tyler.
Yeah, if Bloodyface wanted to get the quest underway, which I'm guessing he does, it's Glacial Shard, Vanish, and then the next 2 Glacial Shards will complete the quest from that point.
Yep.
The thing about it is Vanish is a very important card a lot of times, but if you have quest complete, I think the Vanish is much less necessary because that means you can just use your minions to simulate that style where you just kind of pick off all your opponent's stuff. You do have to have board for that to work, but not really much of a problem when all your minions become 4/4s, when they're usually like 1/1s and 2/1s.
Yep.
I wonder.
So Tyler just has a bunch of pieces of stuff that he would like to do, but not all the pieces of stuff that he would like to do. Yes, it's Eric's, but not enough impactful minions in the deck to make that crazy combo happen. Also no Spellstone. He's got Shadow Reaper Anduin, but not enough Burst in hand to be able to end the game over a few turns.
It's time to go Shadow Reaper Anduin. Is what it's time for. I don't think Tyler has a line in this game that's really going to get him there. Like maybe there's something weird with like Eternal Servitude to set up a cloning gallery to do something, but he just drew the Malagos. So that's one of the ones you don't want to draw if you're setting up a burst combo with Zarek's cloning gallery. However, it's looking like Tyler does have that plan in mind. So I'm quite interested in this and to see where this ends up going, because this is a play that certainly raises an eyebrow from Bloodyface, where you see something like this and you go, okay, what the heck is going on? And so it's complete quest, and then kill this Radiant Elemental.
Yeah. Which Tyler was just kind of hoping that there was no charge or rusher in the hand for him to be able to kill that off, which I like that play because let's say that Radiant Elemental lives. Then he can play Eric's next turn and have access to Mind Blast plus Holy Smite, which still wouldn't be lethal damage.
Yeah. This was a strange play to me, honestly, from Tyler's position. I'm not quite sure what the major benefit of having that happen was. To me, it looks like he just threw away an Eternal Servitude.
Yeah, but maybe he thinks that Eternal Servitude's not going to really be able to win in the game in the long run. That's what that's
very possible.
That's where my head's at.
Now you don't get the Anduin down, though. I mean, when is that Anduin coming down
also,
now?
maybe he thinks that he's not really willing to give up his heal because Spirit Lash currently...
That's a true story.
Not guaranteed to be a big heal, and he needs more time to find pieces. Ooh, prep.
Yeah, not the greatest at this stage, I'd say. There's only one Vanish left in the deck, so I think Preparation is actually probably the weakest hit left in Bloodyface's deck. Like, I think you'd rather see Valera than Preparation at this point. It's like the second Valera's not going to do anything, but it's like, what is the second Preparation going to do? There's literally one spell left in the deck, and it's Vanish. I'm sorry, there's Fan of Knives as well, in case he really needs to cycle those.
Fan of Knives, yeah. Is this coin going to be impactful from the Gilded Gargoyle?
Definitely is.
But is it?
Yeah, that allows your opponent to have an 11-mana turn.
Yeah, but is 11 mana... Is an 11-mana turn even what can win Tyler the game at this stage?
Well, I want to introduce you to my good friend Malagos Spirit Lash.
Ah, yes. I, too, have met
Perhaps you
Malagos
forgot
Spirit Lash.
that Malagos gives you +5 spell damage.
Ah, yes, I did. I thought Malagos was just a 4/12 dragon.
Also introduces you to my good friend, let's get a lot of random Lyra spells.
Well, it would only be one random Lyra spell.
Coin?
I guess 2 random Lyra spells. Maybe 3.
2 feels like a lot here. Spellstone is one of the random Lyra spells.
Okay, and he gets another coin because he traded in the Gilded Gargoyle or has another Gilded Gargoyle in his deck, which was pulled out by the Xerxes Cloning Gallery.
Well, that's a big deal. Was Mass Hysteria the other one?
It was.
Are you sure that Lyra's not drawing cards from the deck right now?
As sure as I am that that hatchet was still there in game 1.
I mean, this is a whole new game now.
Yeah, back up to 30 Spellstone now with, what was it, 3 Radiant Elementals in the pool?
3 Radiants, 2 Gargoyles, Lyra, Velen, Ziliax.
That's pretty good. Still needs to beef up that Spellstone, though. But
Spellstone does say different minions, though. You cannot resurrect the same minion twice.
But with more minions in the pool, like Radiant, it nods. It has a nod towards that. Increases the percentage chance.
But is that finally confirmed? That's actually been a question I've had for a long time.
Nobody could ever possibly confirm that. It's impossible to confirm.
Couldn't the developer of the game confirm or deny that?
Technically.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody's ever
It's like with
said
Shadow
it.
Visions in Discovery. I'm
just
curious if you have 2 Psychic Screams and 1 Mind Blast.
That it's going to give you a Psychic Scream more often?
I don't know
that's
if that's
not
true
confirmed
or not.
either.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I want that confirmed.
My world is shattered right now. But Tyler does have Psychic Scream plus Mass Hysteria to defend against this push. And
it's necessary to defend against it as well.
Another Spellstone, so he's got 2 potential Spellstones to get the ball rolling. How much damage can bloodyface piece together? He's got Prep Vanish, but also has Stone Tusk Force Sousy Deckhand.
It's 17 and then 4 more from the Shadow Step, so 21 exactly. So, you know, looking back to the Shadow Reaper Anduin, if Tyler had not been weaving in these heals every turn, he'd be in a pretty disastrous spot.
Yeah.
The question that Tyler, I think, is willing to risk right now is the Mass Hysteria, where there is 1 Mass Hysteria pan out that works perfectly, and if it's the Wax Elemental is in the first attack iteration.
That's true. If the Glacier starts to attack each other, Tyler's dead.
Yes, but you know,
if he's Psychic Scream and heals, he's alive.
I think he's sometimes still willing to have the Wax Elemental go wrong in that scenario though, because what's the likelihood that Bloodyface actually delivers a lethal blow the following turn?
Yeah, he would have to have
Chargers and Shadow Step,
which he only has 2 Chargers left since he used a Sousy Deckhand early on in the game. So he would have to have this exact hand, which is a 5-card combo.
I think it's wise to do it this way.
Is that second Shadow Step?
I think it was. Oh boy.
All right, that's lethal.
Well, yeah. Bloodyface spots these really quick. He's always thinking about this during his opponent's turn. And
okay, 21 damage, another Shadow Step.
I've talked to him about the game, and he just always constantly thinking, what's my draw for lethal? Do I have a draw for lethal? What is it? I need to know and start to plan that out. Insane draw from Bloodyface. 3-0 in this set, and our third 3-0 of the day.
This is as fast as we could possibly churn through Hearthstone matches.
We've been casting these quick.
Yeah, and you can see Bloodyface taking off the headset. I do not think Tyler expected to die there. That had to be that exact combo of cards. No 2-ofs of any of those left in the deck. Crazy finish with Tyler basically on the verge of victory himself with that buffed up Spellstone potentially.
Yeah.
Depending on what it res, but at the end of the day, Bloodyface going to take that victory, continuing his kind of streak of domination over the course of the past 2 championships and the past 2 playoffs.
Yes, and this is one of the reasons that I consider Bloodyface, up there as in an argument for the best in the world right now.
Yeah.
Is this has now been 2 times that this has been happening where it's just like strong technical play, great recognition. He's got a lineup that's built a little bit differently than everybody else's, and it continues to pay off in success. I look at Tyler's lineup in this one in the same way that I feared for Bloodyface's Quest Rogue. I was a bit uneasy about the Xerxes Cloning Gallery Priest from Tyler's side. So if he had gotten that particular game through, I think that then you're looking at a set where it's like, I'm a little bit worried for Bloodyface, but with that Xerxes Cloning Gallery Priest there still, I think that Tyler had an advantage until it got to game 3 this way it did.
Yeah. But Tyler's still got some fight left in him. It is a double elimination group, so he'll be seeing him later on in the week. But another person who we'll be seeing in just a few seconds is Bloodyface, who's standing by with an interview with Raven.
Okay, thanks a lot, TJ. And bloodyface, congratulations on the win very early on and very quickly. Were you feeling confident going into the match, and you think it was going to be a 3-0?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I was medium confidence, like me and Tyler were pretty similar lineups. We did do a bit of a different ban, which changed things up a little bit. But I felt like it was more of a 50-50 matchup, and I respect Tyler a lot as a player. So I figured we were even on deck and play skill, so I felt like it could have been anyone's game.
Okay, and just going specifically now in game 2, you chose the Shadow Word Death over the Mind Blast from the Shadow Visions a couple of turns before the end. Do you remember? Yeah. Okay, good. Can you just take me through the reasoning for that one? Because Mind Blast with that kind of board felt very powerful.
I was more worried about like Nerubian Unraveler. Like, since he played Mojo Master, I knew he couldn't kill me by going like Breaker Hellfire, and I had second Spellstone, so I knew I was just like gonna have board control, and I didn't think there was like a Hellfire Defile clear with like having a bunch of 8/8s and 7/7s. So I didn't think I needed the burst damage. I was like, maybe I was worrying a little bit too much about Unraveler, but in testing, that card's like really insane. It might not have been like insane in that spot, but I just wanted to make sure I had an answer for it.
Sure, it's important to just have a bit of a safety net to go for. And just finally, you know, you've kind of just been stomping through tournaments recently and continuing to do very well with the start to this one. Is building this kind of legacy, is this kind of deep run in competitive Hearthstone very important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, did well in HCT Fall, did well in the last 2 playoffs. So HCT event-wise, I feel like I'm on a bit of a win streak, and, you know, just want to keep it up. Winning.
Yeah, all the way to Worlds, right? It's no problem at all. But no, congratulations again, and thanks a lot. And we'll go back over to TJ and Admirable to finish up the match.
Very level-headed guy. And we mentioned the Shadow Vision, Shadow or Death, Mind Blast thing. But one thing that I know can get into players' head is when they're testing certain matchups, and there's a card that keeps beating them over and over again. It sticks in their head, and you can see that bloodyface just now has an innate fear of Nerubian Unraveler, no matter what the board state is. 8/8, 8/8, 7/7, 7/7. Well, a 5/5 that makes my spells cost more could lose me the game.
I don't think it mattered.
Yeah, I don't think it mattered.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
I think he was winning.
I think also, like, he knew that it didn't matter.
He could have, like, spent 6 mana and, like, dealt himself a damage and probably still won that game.
Well,
Not the turn he was at 4,
yeah,
but the turn afterwards where he healed a bunch, he could have just... you got the game. I mean, you resurrected, like, 36 8/8s and, like, 15 7/7s. You're in a good spot.
Yeah, but after talking with bloodyface over the past few days and hearing his interview answers, definitely a player that wants to keep proving himself and keep building on that legacy that he's begun now. Already qualified to the World Championship, now qualified to the winner's match of his group. Bloodyface, definitely a player to watch for some time now in competitive Hearthstone. But that does it for our 3rd match of the day. But don't worry, we got 5 more initial matches left. You're going to see every other player that hasn't played yet play throughout day 1 here at the HCT Winter Championship. So don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone action right after this.